In the final decades of the 19th century, Japan stood at a crossroads, torn between the old world of the samurai and the new age of empire and industry. This is the story of a man who lived through that transformation, who helped to build it, then died fighting it. A warrior revered by both friend and foe. A man whose loyalty, courage, and tragedy came to define the spirit of Japan itself. His name was Saigō Takamori, the Lion of Satsuma, remembered by history as the Last Samurai. Born in 1828 in the southern domain of Satsuma, today's Kagoshima, Saigō Takamori came from a poor samurai family. He was a man of simple habits and immense physical strength, known for his honesty and his booming laughter. He served under the powerful Shimazu clan, whose domain had long been known for discipline, independence, and martial pride. In the 1850s and 1860s, Japan was a nation in turmoil. American warships had forced open the country's ports, foreign influence was spreading, and the shogunate, the centuries-old Tokugawa rule, appeared weak and outdated. Across Japan, reformers and loyalists whispered of restoring real power to the emperor in Kyoto. Among those reformers, Satsuma and its samurai stood at the forefront. Saigō emerged as one of their leading voices, a man of action rather than rhetoric, guided by a simple belief that Japan must renew its strength and moral virtue before it could stand among the nations of the world. By the mid-1860s, Saigō had joined forces with another reformist domain, Choshu, uniting two former rivals against the Tokugawa. It was a dangerous gamble, but their cause gained momentum, rallying under the banner of "Revere the Emperor, expel the barbarians." In 1868, the Boshin War erupted, civil war between the shogunate and the imperial loyalists. Saigō, commanding the imperial forces, proved both a fierce warrior and a merciful leader. His moment of destiny came that spring, when his army approached Edo, the great city of the shogunate. The shogun's advisor, Katsu Kaishu, requested a meeting. The two men, one representing the old order, the other the new, met face to face. What followed was not a battle, but an act of peace. Rather than destroy Edo and drown it in blood, Saigō accepted its peaceful surrender. The city was spared, and Japan entered a new era. When Emperor Meiji moved to Tokyo later that year, Saigō stood as one of the heroes of the restoration, a loyal servant of the throne, celebrated across the land. Yet victory brought unease. In the new Meiji government, Saigō found himself surrounded not by warriors but by bureaucrats. His fellow revolutionaries, men like Okubo Toshimichi and Kido Takayoshi, had embraced Western models of government, industry, and military reform. To Saigō, these changes came too quickly and at too great a cost. The samurai class, who had served Japan for centuries, were being systematically erased. Their hereditary stipends were abolished. Their swords, once symbols of duty and identity, were banned from public life. Their top knots, the mark of a warrior, were cut away in the name of progress. For Saigō, modernization was necessary, but modernization without virtue was meaningless. He feared Japan was losing its moral compass, trading spirit for machinery, honor for profit. In 1873, the government debated a controversial plan to invade Korea. Saigō, believing the mission would restore national unity and provide a role for unemployed samurai, supported it. But others in the cabinet opposed him, seeing it as reckless and costly. The plan was rejected, and Saigō resigned in protest. He returned home to Kagoshima, far from Tokyo's politics. There he opened private academies, schools where young men were taught military skills and the old samurai virtues of loyalty, self-discipline, and sacrifice. They looked to him as a mentor, even as a living symbol of the samurai spirit in a world that no longer needed samurai. But to the Meiji government, those schools looked dangerous. By the mid-1870s, Kagoshima was filled with former warriors discontent with Tokyo's rule. The government feared Saigō was plotting rebellion. In early 1877, those fears turned to action. In January, the central government sent agents to investigate the situation in Satsuma. When locals discovered the mission, it turned violent. Armories were raided, weapons seized, and word spread that Tokyo intended to assassinate Saigō himself. Furious, Saigō's students marched north to demand justice. Saigō, reluctant but bound by loyalty to his men, agreed to lead them, not as a traitor, but as a man determined to confront the government and expose its corruption. Thus began the Satsuma Rebellion. By February, more than 40,000 samurai rallied to Saigō's banner. They were well-trained but poorly equipped. Few had modern rifles and ammunition was scarce. Still, they marched north toward Kumamoto Castle, held by imperial troops. The government responded swiftly. From across Japan, conscripts and modern divisions, equipped with rifles, artillery, and even Gatling guns, were mobilized under General Saigō had once commanded. The siege of Kumamoto began in winter rain and ended in disappointment. Despite fierce attacks, the castle held. Saigō's army, short of food and bullets, could not break the imperial lines. The modern army of the emperor had proven its strength. Disciplined, relentless, and armed with technology the samurai could not match. As Saigō's forces retreated south, they made a stand at Tabaruzaka near Kumamoto. For 2 weeks, the hills and fields became a killing ground. The rebels fought with courage, charging into gunfire with swords drawn. The government troops answered with artillery shells and bayonet charges. Rain turned the ground to mud, muskets jammed, and men fought hand to hand in the darkness. More than 10,000 soldiers were killed or wounded. The carnage shocked both sides. It was civil war in its purest, most terrible form. When the guns finally fell silent, Saigō's army was broken. He ordered a retreat, heading back toward Kagoshima, pursued by tens of thousands of imperial soldiers. By September, Saigō had barely 500 men left, starving, wounded, and surrounded in the hills of Shiroyama, overlooking his hometown of Kagoshima. Facing them were 30,000 government troops, supported by modern artillery and warships offshore. Every night, shells rained down on the rebel positions. Every day, the circle grew tighter. Yet the samurai refused to surrender. They polished their swords, donned their armor, and prepared to die with honor. On the morning of September 24, 1877, Saigō and his men descended the slope for one final charge. They knew they would not return. Gunfire and explosions filled the air. One by one, the samurai fell. Saigō was struck by a bullet, wounded in the hip. According to legend, he turned to his companion, Beppu Shinsuke, and asked for help performing seppuku, ritual suicide, before the enemy could take him. When the smoke cleared, Saigō Takamori lay dead at the age of 49. His rebellion was over. So too was the age of the samurai. The imperial government declared victory. Modern Japan had proven its power, disciplined, unified, and unstoppable. But many in Tokyo did not celebrate. Even those who fought against him mourned Saigō's death. He had never sought power or glory, only honor. His rebellion was seen not as treason, but as a tragic protest, a man's final stand against the tide of history. In the years that followed, Japan continued to modernize at breathtaking speed. Railways stretched across the islands. Factories rose from the rice fields. A national army, modeled on the West, replaced the samurai entirely. And yet, amid all that progress, people remembered Saigō. In 1889, the Meiji government, the very regime he had fought against, issued an imperial pardon. Saigō Takamori's honor was restored. He was declared a man of virtue and loyalty, whose intentions had been pure. In Ueno Park, Tokyo, a bronze statue was raised in his memory. A simple figure dressed in samurai robes, walking his dog, gazing quietly toward the horizon. Tourists still see it today, unaware that they stand before the image of a man once branded a rebel, To the Japanese people, Saigo became a symbol of courage, integrity, and loyalty to one's beliefs, even unto death. Writers called him the embodiment of Bushido, the samurai way of honor. When Japan later faced its own crises, wars, defeat, rebirth, Saigo's name returned, invoked as a reminder that modernization must never come at the expense of one's spirit. The story of Saigō Takamori inspired legends and films around the world. The image of a warrior standing against a modern army captured imaginations far beyond Japan. But behind the myths and the movies lies a deeper truth, a human story of loyalty, loss, and the cost of change. Saigo was not fighting to turn back time. He was fighting for dignity in an age that no longer valued it, for the right of a man and a nation to modernize without losing its soul. When he died on that hill above Kagoshima, the old Japan died with him. But from its ashes rose a new Japan, stronger, faster, modern, yet forever haunted by the echo of the samurai. Thank you for spending your time with us. Subscribe to the channel and continue traveling through history together.